I got the coveted 1 o'clock slot. And I saw lasagna and rice. And I knew I was in trouble. So guess what? Y'all are going to be moving around a lot for this session, okay? Because I got to get those carbs working out of you for sure. But my name is Traci Newkirk. My husband and I own Intellectual Capital. About 15 years ago, we started staffing for state government, state agencies. Since then, we've grown to be a small app development shop. So we're working on some big projects with the state of South Carolina that we feel like will make our state better for all of its residents, which is really exciting. We also launched about 6 or 7 years ago a learning and development division of our company as well, because what we realized is that we could staff a really smart person in an organization, and if the culture was bad, guess what they did? See ya. So all that work to find a great, smart, well-qualified, competent individual, and then they leave after 6 weeks because they have a terrible boss or terrible coworkers or whatever. Many of you shaking your heads, you understand what that means, right? And culture is a really big deal right now in America, and we've got to do a better job of what that looks like. So today I want to talk to you about 2 ideas that we are working with managers all over the United States and trying to work with them on. And those 2 ideas are collaboration and curiosity. And so I want to take this next hour today to kind of break those down and talk to you about what those mean. We're going to do a lot of interactive exercises because I like to teach experimentally, so we'll do that today. So first off, how many of you have an Apple Watch? Raise your hands. So tell me, what does your Apple Watch push to you? You know those push notifications? Bzz, bzz. What are some things that your Apple Watch will push to you? What? Spam. Okay, yeah, those are not things. What else will it push? Texts. What else? Phone calls. What else? Stand up, right? It'll say stand up, you've been sitting too long. What else? Breathe, right? What else? Mine will say drink water. I have an app that will push, hey, you need to drink some water. What else will it push? Oh, you wish, right? What else will it push a notification to you about? Kind of anything that you want, right? If you download an app, you can get a notification on anything. Well, what I want to say is I wish it pushed a notification to us to say you were rude in that meeting. I wished it pushed a notification that it would say you're not very collaborative today. I wish it would push a notification to you to say you interrupted instead of listening. I wish it had enough AI in order to do that, because I think as managers it would save us a lot of hassle and a lot of frustration. So today what I want to do is I want to push some notifications to you out in this session, where I want to teach you what it means to show up and understand that you've either been collaborative or you haven't, or you've either been curious or you haven't, okay? But first, I need everyone to stand up and find a partner. Everyone stand up and find a partner. Okay. Now that you have your partner, I'm going to give you 5 minutes with your partner to come up with directions to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. 5 minutes, come up with directions and write them down. Do that now. Now I'm going to have a couple of microphones around the room, and I want you to share, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this. I want you to share with me your instructions for making a peanut butter sandwich. Perfect. I've already got one right here. If I could have a microphone right here, please. And if you will. All right. Will you stand up and share with us your recipe for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Yes.
So first of all, we defined the business need. We're hungry. We gathered the ingredients and tools, and we listed them: peanut butter, jelly, bread, knife, plate, and napkin, because we're neat. Next step, open the bag of bread. Next step, extract 2 pieces. 5, open the peanut butter. 6, open the jelly. 7, lay out the bread on the plate separately. And we only got this far. Extract peanut butter with a knife, and we were specking how much. We called it a blob.
Perfect, perfect. Spoken like a true project manager. All right, excellent. So now listen to the next one. Go ahead.
All right, so we are going to get our bread from the pantry. We're going to open the bread bag, take out 2 slices of bread, close the bag, get a plate from the cabinet, put the bread on the plate, get a knife and spoon from the drawer, get the jelly from the fridge, get the peanut butter from the pantry, open the peanut butter and open the jelly, use the knife to get the peanut butter out of the jar, spread the peanut butter on one side of 1 slice of bread, use the spoon to get the jelly out the jar, spread the jelly on one side of the other slice of bread, put the used spoon in the sink, close the peanut butter and close the jelly, put 2 pieces of bread together, the peanut butter and jelly sides together, use the knife to cut the sandwich diagonally, put the knife back in the sink, and put the peanut butter back in the pantry and the jelly back in the fridge.
Good job. Okay, what was different between the first and the second? Shout out some things. Spoon, what else? Pardon me? Storage area, what else? She didn't overthink it, what else? Pardon me? She closed the jars, right? She closed the bread, what else? She finished making the sandwich, right?
She's naturally neat and didn't need a napkin.
Didn't need a napkin. Okay, naturally neat. Now, you see how the idea that we started with, we've changed by this next idea, right? Would you say that as we're going to get better as we gather information? Who's next? I need another, yes, back here.
So I didn't finish mine, but I definitely have some differences.
Okay.
So first was go to the store and buy white bread, creamy peanut butter, and grape jelly. Ensure the bread is fresh. Pay
Here's
for it
the
all.
back here.
Bring your ingredients home and into the kitchen. Place the ingredients on the island. Open the jars and the bag. Open the cabinet, take out a plate, close the cabinet, put the plate on the island. Remove 2 slices of white bread from the bag and place them on the plate beside one another. Remove the knife from the silverware drawer, insert knife into peanut butter, and pick up the peanut butter with a knife, and then that's all we got.
Perfect. Okay, so what was different? She went to the store. What else did she specify? The brands, right? She said what kind of jelly, what kind of peanut butter, right? What kind of bread, right? So she added to the elements from the first 2. Great, thank you. One more.
Go ask your mom.
There we go. That was perfect. Yes, yeah, I've gotten a lot of those calls. Yeah, absolutely. So what was different? Delegation, right? Absolutely. Go to the source, find out the person who probably knows the best and who's done it the most, correct? Right? Involve the right people in the group. Correct. Outsource. I love that. So I wanted to use this example today about peanut butter because I want to talk to you about our next slide, which is collaboration. Now, collaboration is the action of working with someone to create something better. The purpose of collaboration is to actually leave the meeting with a better idea than what you started with. And I was trying to illustrate that today with the peanut butter, right? We finished by all the different parts and we only heard from 4 people. Imagine if you had 8 in a meeting, right? You're hearing from all 8 people. We love to call that raising the IQ of a group. Your job as the leader of that team or the leader of that project is to raise the IQ of the group by asking the right questions, by involving the right amount of people, by making the thought better. I think sometimes that we'll come to a meeting and our egos need to be checked at the door. Because we should be leaving these meetings with a better idea than what we came to the meeting with in the first place. And we can only do that by involving the right amount of people and creating a safe atmosphere for them to share. So I want to talk to you about what that looks like. My next quote, no one can whistle a symphony, it takes a whole orchestra to play it. It takes a whole orchestra to create a proper project. It creates a whole orchestra to write a piece of software. It takes all types of people working together, and they all have value. The value is different, just like you heard from these 4 people today. She brings the value of delegation, right? She knows who to put at the table, who to call, who to have in the room. Back here, we had the value of, she understood the brands. She understood the specification of the brands, right? He started with just really exact directions, right? Same thing with her here. So we're all bringing something different to the meeting, and we all need to have the space to share and what that means. Now, a couple of things that I want to highlight. I loved this morning's speaker at 9 a.m., and I want to highlight something that she said. I think sometimes what's happening is we're coming to the meetings to collaborate, and the meeting is information. So the very first thing in running a collaboration meeting is define what kind of meeting it is. If you're coming to a meeting and it's an informative meeting and you need people to shut up and listen, then say information meeting. If you build the meeting as collaboration and you build in no time for people to speak, what is the meeting? It's an informational meeting. It's a monologue. There is one person speaking. So I think sometimes we're not setting ourselves up correctly because we're not, number one, defining what type of meeting it is. Is it information or is it collaboration? The second area that I want to say is establish primary purpose. What is the purpose of the meeting? Are you establishing that? I even think managing up, you sometimes can go to your boss and say, this is the primary purpose of the meeting that you're going to attend today. Is that what you want? Am I on the right path? One of my things that I said in our group back there is I often say, paint done for me. Paint done for me. Because I need to understand what done looks like before I even begin. And that's that old adage, I begin with the end in mind. Paint done for me. Next is invite the right people. Make sure that the right people are at the right table. Make sure that the people that need to be in the room are included. And the last thing that I want to talk to you about is consider psychological safety. You see, no one will collaborate if they don't feel safe. Psychological safety is probably the most important item that I can tell you and teach you today regarding collaboration. What is psychological safety? The Harvard Business Review has defined it as the ability to be completely vulnerable without fear of retaliation or criticism if you admit an error or make a mistake. How many of you are setting up meetings where psychological safety is guarded? I often work with political teams all over the United States, and what's interesting to me is they say, when you leave, our people don't talk. And I said, well, why do you think that is? And I said, they're like, I don't know. It's because you're here. And I said, no, it's because I make them feel safe to speak. You have to learn, if you want to build a collaborative environment, you have to learn how to make it safe for people to speak. Now, I want to show you a slide of what will ruin your chances of collaboration. Judgments, unsolicited advice giving, interrupting, and sharing outside of the team meeting. I always say the meeting after the meeting kills your chances of collaboration. If your people are having a meeting after the meeting, guess what? They did not feel safe to speak in the meeting they were in. And it's our jobs, if we're running a meeting, in order to make it safe enough that people have a chance to speak. So, when is the right time to push people and get the best out of them? These are some questions that I want you now on your table that we've put some handouts. And I want to give you about 5 minutes right now to begin thinking about some of these questions. And here they are. When is the right time to push people and get the best out of them? 2, What role are you playing when you collaborate? Are you the facilitator? Are you the know-it-all? Are you the person that asks great questions? Are you the subject matter expert? 3, how do the group dynamics affect how you show up? I think earlier today what was interesting is hearing how the group dynamics are affecting everyone when there's a tornado, right? When there's a micromanager, that affects everyone and they show up differently because of that. 4, how is your voice perceived during collaboration? And 5, how is your lack of ability to collaborate hurting your ability to be successful, hurting the company's ability to be successful? I want you to take 5 minutes now and just a thought-provoking way answer those questions right now. Okay, who might be willing to share? We have a couple of microphones. When is the right time to push people and get the best out of them? Will someone be bold enough to share? This gentleman right here.
It's working. Cool. So I had a little challenge with the word time because I think it's just one element of a condition. And so I unpacked it a little bit further. And I think what it takes is first the person has to be in the right seat in the organization. So there's a layup for that. Then I think they need a clearly stated purpose, not how to do it, but what is the intent of what you're trying to get them to achieve. And then like you've said here, they need to feel safe to do so. So that's how I
Good.
took it.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Perfect. Number 2, who would share with that? What role are you playing when you collaborate?
So for me, when I collaborate, the role I play is a teammate on equal footing.
Excellent. Expound more on that.
Sometimes when you're running a project and you're the one making sure actions are done or making sure all the risks are mitigated and addressed, sometimes you're not viewed as someone that's a teammate. You're viewed as someone who's kind of driving things forward.
Right. So you level that playing ground then?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Number 3, how do the group dynamics affect how you show up? Who would share that? Thank you. Up here. Thank you for your boldness, those of you who are sharing. I appreciate it.
I think I wrote 2 things. One is having the safety to feel like you can bring your voice there. So past experiences are really going to impact how I come into a meeting and what I feel I can share. And we've got to remember that too. If we've had a bad experience with someone, they might also be bringing that in. The other thing I would say is I'm an extremely fast-paced person. So collaboration pace is important to me because if someone drones on, I probably disconnect fairly quickly. And I have to think about it for myself when I run a meeting that some people need more time to think. So I also have to pace myself to make sure I'm keeping the collaboration at the pace of the participants.
Excellent. Thank you for that. It's funny because whenever we hire staff, the first thing in a very first meeting, I'll say to them, so what are your thoughts? And they're a little caught off guard, and they were like, I've never been asked those before. And I said, well, you're going to be asked them here. So I want you to come to the meeting prepared to share. And that takes a while for some people to learn that. Thank you. 4, how is your voice perceived during the collaboration? Yes, back here.
I will never know how my voice is perceived unless I either ask and or actively observe reactions.
Sure. Okay. I do think there's a way to know how your voice is perceived because people should be leaning forward, right? They should be listening. There should be some nonverbal. Our words are only 7% out of 100. The other 93 is our nonverbal. So there should be some nonverbal that you can pick up to say, at least I've been heard, right? Thank you for that. 5, how is my lack of ability to collaborate hurting my ability to succeed? Yes. Yes. Here he comes.
Well, I was talking to the group, and I was mentioning the fact that I know I haven't collaborated when I come out of a meeting and I'm doing more by myself than I am with other people.
You know you haven't
I
collaborated
haven't
well?
collaborated if I'm working by myself.
Absolutely.
I should be working with others.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, there is a way to know how much you're collaborating by how much you're taking from the meeting. If you have nothing or if you have everything, right? There should be somewhere in the middle, right, that you're coming out of that as well. Take now and write one intention that you can use to begin to collaborate better. Just write one intention that you can take from this and use to go back to your office to collaborate better. Then we're going to move on. All right, next slide. So our next force multiplier is curiosity. Now, curiosity is continuing to wonder about how things work and a strong desire to know or learn something. One of the things that I use earlier, David said that I'm a personality junkie, and I will test teams. I have 4 different personality assessments that I can use to test teams, and I can tell how you show up in this area. I can tell if you show up and you don't like long meetings and then you're ready to go, right? And it's move, 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 move. I don't want to sit here and talk a whole lot. I can tell if you show up and you're a know-it-all. I can tell how you're going to show up if you're going to ask 1 or 2 questions or if you're going to ask 15 and frustrate the group, right? So those personality assessments and this curiosity is very important because I can really teach you what you need to regulate about yourself to either become more curious or maybe a little less. Now, curiosity is important, and we want to do an exercise now around that. So I'm going to have you stand up and find a different partner. Stand up and find a different partner. And then I will give you instructions. Okay, here we go. You got your partners? So one of you will ask questions for 2 minutes of your partner. The partner may answer but may not ask a question back. Okay? So you're going to have 2 minutes and you're going to ask a question, and you have to keep asking questions for a solid 2 minutes. You may not make a statement. The other person may make statements but not ask questions. Do that now. 2 minutes. All right? We'll stop. Don't move. Don't move. Now, the person who did not ask questions, it's your turn. Oh, yeah. All right, you must ask questions to the other partner must ask questions now for 2 minutes. No statements. You may answer, but not ask questions. Go now. All right. All right, here we go. So tell me, was it easier or harder to ask questions? Harder? Raise your hands if it was harder. Raise your hands if you found asking questions easy. Interesting. So personality tests, I can tell you what strengths that you have, right? If asking questions was easy. So excellent. Have a seat. So we'll go back to the other slide. What I'm hoping with this next part is that the mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. Now, so how many of you have ever went to work and trained all day and sat in a chair but went home and you were exhausted? Raise your hands. Isn't that crazy? But you didn't do a marathon, you didn't work out, right? You didn't get all your 10,000 steps in. You sat in a chair and you trained all day. Well, I want to talk to you about why curiosity is so hard. We have 2 brains. There is our ancient brain, which loves the status quo. It loves comfort. It loves ease. It loves doing things over and over and over again the same way. You know why? It can go on autopilot. Your brain is the organ of your body that uses the most energy of any organ. And so when it can conserve itself and just do something that's easy and just do something that's thoughtless and just do something that's status quo, that's what it wants to do. What I want to tell you that what takes curiosity is using this complex brain, this modern brain. Curiosity, that's where it lies, where it says, I'm in this meeting and I'm not going to disengage. I'm not going to scroll under the table. I'm not going to doodle on my pad. I'm going to stay engaged in the meeting so that I can ask the right questions that move our team along. We need the complex brain in order to be curious. We have to kick ourselves out of the comfort zone, out of the status quo, out of just thinking that we know it all, out of just being ready for our next project, right? We have to show up and be completely present. And then we have to be engaged enough to ask questions. Now, I find that curiosity should lead to great questions. If you're curious, you should be able to take the next step with every question. So help me understand. So tell me what you mean. So give me more information about. So tell me how that looks to you. So paint done for me, right? It's constantly asking a question that's taking the next step. What's frustrating to people is when you ask the same question over and over and over again, but it's not taking a step forward. It's not helping the group to understand better what it should be understanding in the first place. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you about curiosity is that you can only be curious if you're humble. You can only be curious if you're willing to admit that you don't have all the answers. That trips us up. Because we have gray hairs, we have experience. We've been doing this job for 10 years. We've been in this company for 20 years, right? And it's tripping us up. Because humility is what it takes to be curious. Humility is what it takes to be curious. When I'm humble enough to say, you know what? I don't care how long you've been here. You still could have an idea that I've never thought of. After all, if you want a better performance, if you want a better product, that's what it's going to have to take. Next, curiosity requires confidence. Phil Yanoff, which is runs Tech After 5 here in town, he told me one time that I am confident enough to be humble. I am confident enough to know that every person I meet has something to teach me. I am confident enough to know with my stature and my role and my place in the company that I can ask a question of you and it doesn't matter what you think. Because I'm confident in who I am. And that confidence will lead to curiosity as well. Last, curiosity initiates growth. Innovation does not happen without curiosity. You know the #1 podcast in America? Does anybody know? Anybody have a guess? Nope. Whoa, no. The the podcast is called How Things Work. Look it up. How Things Work. Isn't that fascinating that it's the #1 podcast in America, but yet Americans themselves have become less curious? Americans themselves, by a Gallup, the poll after poll after poll, what they're finding is that people are not as curious as they used to be 10 years ago. They don't want to hear what you have to say. There's a self-preservation going on in America that is hindering us from becoming curious. And that is a dangerous place to be because of this one point, is that growth stops when we're not curious. Both ourselves and our company, innovation stops when we're not curious. We can't figure out how to get better because we're not humble and confident enough to ask the questions. Yeah, and I think a psychological safety. Right. I also think that people, they'll say, I don't know how to do it, but I'll Google it. You know, I used to ask my mother, right? I used to call up the phone and ask my mother. I said to my daughter who just got married, why do you never ask me for recipes? She said, because I Google it. She said, I go on Pinterest. I don't really need you to tell me your old-fashioned recipes. I can find the recipe there. And so I do think that we're becoming less curious maybe interpersonally, but we're going and finding it from different information, different sources. And maybe those sources are correct and maybe they're not. So consider these questions now for the next 5 minutes. 1, how do you use curiosity to connect to the main goal? 2, what strengths of yours can you call on to help you stay curious? 3, how do you keep your curiosity focused? Not chasing those rabbit trails, not keeping your ego in check. How are your curiosity deficiencies keeping you from a lack of success? How do you use curiosity to connect to the main goal? Who would share? As a project manager, how do you use curiosity to connect to the main goal?
Ask questions
To who?
to the people on the team.
Who else?
About the subject.
Who else could you ask questions to?
Subject matter experts,
Who else?
sponsors,
Who else?
any other stakeholder.
Anybody, right?
Yep.
So it should be questions going from everybody, right, to gather the data. Thank you
Yep.
for that. 2, what strengths of yours can you call on to help you stay curious? When you're just busy and want to move on and you've got too much on your plate, what can you call on about yourself? What else? Energy level. What else? A desire to be what? So that you've prepared for the meeting, right? The desire to be knowledgeable. Excellent. What else? Patience. What else? Open-mindedness. What else? Focus. What else? What about adaptability? Right? Flexibility, the ability to pivot. Perfect. Thank you, guys. And keep shouting out. How do you keep your curiosity focused? Coffee. That helps, right? What else? Keep the end goal in mind. Perfect. What else? Write it down. Timers. What else? Looking for win-win, right? Doesn't always have to be a win-lose. I always call that collaborative conflict resolution. What else? How else can you keep your curiosity focused? Maybe giving yourself a certain amount of questions that you can ask. Maybe if you don't ask questions, that you're writing questions down as they're talking, right? Last, how are your curiosity deficiency keeping you from a lack of success? Is it? Who would share? That was excellent. Thank you. Let it have a speaker or a microphone.
If you're not curious, you may not communicate or interface with people.
Yeah. If you're not curious, you'll stay away from everybody, right? What else?
If you're not focused on your curiosity, you can get off track.
Yes, perfect. What else? Yeah, prioritizing. Is it important for this meeting, this person, this group, right? Perfect. What else?
You may not fully understand their other needs.
Oh, yeah, that was excellent. Tell me more about that.
So consecutively asking questions to further understand your customer's purpose and their needs. Without doing that, you may be solving the wrong problem. You might have not gotten to it.
Yeah, that was. Can you say it again?
My memory's not that good.
I know.
So what I mean to say is, if you're not sufficiently curious, you may not really understand the customer's needs. You may not get to what they're really after with their purpose.
Perfect. So piggybacking on that, I was working with a CEO the other day who was having some issues with his executive team. And so he wrote his issue down, and I said, why is that an issue? And then he told me again, and I said, why is that an issue? I went 5 layers of why before I got to the real issue. And that's sometimes what it takes. It takes 5 layers for us to really dig deep enough sometimes to get the real answer. 3 things. 1, people tell you what you want to hear first off. Second time you ask them, they tell you what they want to say, what they want to feel. And the third time you get the actual answer. So what I'm hoping that you get from that is that without curiosity, you're just getting the basic layer. You're not really getting down deep to know what is the problem or even trying to figure out what is the solution. So how can collaboration and curiosity be force multipliers? How can it change your project team, the people you interface with? What does that look like? Problem solved together. Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for the added explanation, too. Who else? If you're doing that, do you think people's egos are going to be left at the door? If everybody comes in and knows that the first thought is not going to be the best thought and we're going to go beyond that? Yeah, absolutely. What else? How can curiosity and collaboration be a force multiplier for you and your project? Pardon me? It does. Why does it add excitement?
It's just asking yourself questions, keeping people engaged, making it fun and different.
Yeah, and I heard somebody say discovering, right? There's this whole land out there that you don't really know exists. Perfect. Thank you for that. Who else? Better understanding of what?
Just through collaborating with others and curiosity, I feel like you get on the same page a lot better. And there's times where you work with people, but you truly don't. You're not all on the same page, or maybe you don't. Kind of like what Andy was saying. You might not have the same idea of success, so it just helps everybody just have a better understanding of what you're trying to solve.
Do you feel valued when you're in a meeting and someone asks your opinion, you're able to share?
Yes.
Chances are you liable to stay at that company longer?
Mm-hmm.
Chances are, do you think that you leave the meeting and gossip afterwards? Well, you're a guy, maybe you don't have that problem.
No.
No, why? Because everything you've thought and said, you could bring it up in the meeting, right? So engagement happens, right? Innovation happens, growth happens, less turnover happens, less absentee. We didn't even deal with that. Those are all force multipliers. Perfect. Thank you for that. Who else? I know they're going to wave at me in just a minute. Who else? I know there's 1 or 2 more people. I knew you would wave at me. Thank you. Right here in the front.
Ownership, accountability, authorization, and just true teamwork from that perspective.
Oh, yeah.
I got 2 now.
Yeah. Say it again.
It's ownership. So if you're asking my opinion and you're allowing me to give back, then I'm going to buy into your project and I'm going to want to help you succeed in it because it becomes my project too.
Mm-hmm.
So as there's ownership and accountability, because if I'm bought into your project, then you can hold me accountable, but I can also hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the whole sharing and collaboration and from a definition standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What's interesting is, what I find is that people love to share their ideas, but you don't have to take their ideas. It's not implementing their ideas that they care about. What they care about is, did you actually hear? Did you actually acknowledge? Did I actually have the opportunity? Did you create a space? Whether you take my idea is not that big of a deal. And so many times people are so worried about getting off track or off kilter, or they'll come up with all these, ridiculousness, and really at the end they just want to be heard. So today I hope that you'll leave here and understand that collaboration and curiosity can make your teams better, and you can create a higher performing product. Thank you for allowing me to be here today.